Hey, so hey, if you made it this far, you're just in the beginning. Thanks for coming. I'm gonna actually go put on something a little bit more comfortable. I'll be back. I'm back. Hey y'all. Put on a little lip gloss. Put on a little fancy. Put on black so I can get dirty. Today we're gonna be baking oatmeal cookies, and we're also gonna be making macadamia nut. This is my first video, so hi, we're all new here. I'm learning. I got me a vlogging kit today. Don't know how to use it, so if the lighting is off, I apologize. However, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about conspiracies and cartoons. For future reference, if you guys even want to know what I'm using or what ingredients I'm using, I'm always going to put them in the show notes or in the notes underneath my video. Sorry, I'm new to YouTube. I don't know how this works. So, I figured that I would piece together 2 pieces of life that I actually enjoy aside from being a mom and literally running on caffeine a day because my coffee is literally somewhere around here. I'm going to drink it soon. Why not do baking and conspiracies? Okay, so first we're going to talk about the Rugrats. The theory behind the Rugrats is actually very sad to me. So Angelica is supposed to be a schizophrenic, right? And being that she's a schizophrenic, she is making up all of the babies in her mind. So Tommy was stillborn, he was never born, which explains why his dad is always trying to make freaking toys. Understandable. Chucky died with his mom, and his dad is like a spaz, so that makes sense as to like why he's always worried about him or whatever. And then Phil and Lil, their parents actually aborted them, and they didn't quite. Angelica didn't know if it was like a boy or a girl, so she in her mind she made up twins, whatever. The only one that was actually like real was Dill. And Angelica got so mad because if you remember the show, like if you watch it, the kids like always listen to what Angelica said, or like they would like do things that she told them to do and things like that. Dill was always crying. Dill always cried. He never listened to her or whatever. And at one point it said that she got so mad that she actually jumped on Dill and like was beating his brains out. And her uncle had to come grab her off, but it was a little bit too late and he suffered from a brain hemorrhage. So if you ever pay attention to All Grown Up, he is a little bit deformed and he's like kind of like outcast or set off or whatever. So makes a little bit of sense. However, Angelica's backstory, she eventually, like, All Grown Up was her growing up and basically being heavy, dripping acid and stuff like that. Is that what you say? Did people drip acid? I don't know. So basically she was on acid, and in order for her not to be alone, she made her creations be with her. And so it said that she actually passed away, or she died of an overdose just like her mom, because her mom died of a heroin overdose, which also brings me to Cynthia. Yeah. So the hair, the dress, it's a representation of her real mom, because of course the person that her dad was with was not her real mom, and she had to cope somehow. So also the guilt from beating the pulp out of Dill is another reason why they said she overdosed. Rugrats is a little bit traumatic, and being that that's like also my favorite, one of my favorites, because I have another favorite in this list, but it just kind of is like kind of makes sense. Reddit was my best friend for this one. I saw a lot on Reddit. You gotta check the oven in the chat, because sometimes it'll be pots in there, but not today. Side note, I got a lot of good stuff for Christmas. I'm gonna put this to use today because I ain't been baking. So the next one, number 2, what we're gonna talk about is courage. Just kind of really messed up my idea of courage because I really love courage. I'm switching between Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network because we all watch both of them. Who cares, right? With Courage was always like saving Muriel, and Jesus was always like yelling at Courage, like, you stupid dog, blah blah blah, whatever. Jesus was an asshole. So I found a few theories. The first one, which seems like the most likely, probably, is that Courage was actually a house dog, and Eustace and Muriel never took him out because, hello, they were old, right? So every time that they had somebody to come to the house, he always thought that they were like creepy or they were weird because they didn't take him for walks. They also lived in the middle of nowhere. I wonder if that's a real place. I feel like that's a real place. I don't know. I'll look it up. Yeah, like he, being a dog that's never gone outside or anything like that, he automatically thinks that people that come to the house are weird. And honestly, this makes the most sense because Eustace and Muriel are old. They don't go out a lot, you know. They didn't take him for walks. Makes sense. So one that really kind of stuck out to me was the one where Courage is supposed to be like a guard dog for the gates of hell. Eustace is Hades. Muriel is a representation of mankind, and he's supposed to be protecting her from mankind, which kind of makes sense because he's always protecting Muriel. He tries to protect Eustace, but Eustace is kind of an asshole. So do you remember cats when they were at the hotel? It's like in the first season. The cat's supposed to represent hate, and then the crazy or naughty Fred, which was the cousin, he's supposed to represent murder because he murdered a lot of people. And then LeQuack, he was fucking insane, so he was supposed to represent greed. Okay, so it kind of makes sense. Also, there was the last one, which I'm kind of on the fence about, but it basically, like, if you watch the end of the first season, the very last episode, Eustace and Muriel are puppets. And it said that Eustace and Muriel actually died in the first season, and that Courage was actually insane and he was the puppet master. And because he couldn't handle his, you know, his family or his humans dying, he decided to keep on the charade, and it was just pretty much like real crazy. So like he was laughing maniacally and all this other shit. So that one's also believable because all the shit that happened in the first season, I feel like they would have been dead, and I don't think that Courage could have protected them that much, which kind of makes sense. Also makes sense is why every time that somebody comes to the house, he's like panicking and he's like, oh no, like I'm adding chocolate chips. Sorry, I got sidetracked. I'm adding chocolate chips. Okay, so now that this is actually put together and I have gotten my brain together, I'm actually gonna put this in the refrigerator to freeze. So the next one is actually about Hey Arnold. I don't know if anybody knows this one, but this was actually new to me because I didn't know. But Hey Arnold is actually, his grandparents are actually his parents. And the reason why he is deformed is because they had him at such an old age, and they're actually like kind of insane from what I read. And that's why they pretty much just tell him that his parents passed away, but in reality they didn't. And he was picked on a lot. So being that you're picked on, we all had imaginary did it, then whatever, because who cares? But yeah, in his imagination, all of the people that were his friends actually had deformities too, because who's gonna pick on me, you know, if we're all the same? Also, Helga, it's basically said that the story is about Helga and not about Hey Arnold. One, the title of the show is a direct quote from her. Two, her parents were fucking abusive. Her dad was a workaholic and he was very aggressive, and her mom was an alcoholic. Was drinking smoothies. And I think that, just my personal opinion, I think that she had a love for Arnold because in her mind he could do no wrong. He was always like right and always was about honor and things like that. And I think that a part of it is her battling the depression, that she really was not happy with her life and she was in love with Arnold, but this entire time, like, he didn't know and she didn't want to say anything because she was embarrassed about it. So I think that her being the protagonist instead of the antagonist, very accurate. I think that's an accurate enough. How many have I done already? I don't remember. SpongeBob is the next one. So SpongeBob is said to be a nuclear testing site where all of the animals or what have you have been touched by radiation. And I mean, I can kind of see this working because a lot of the places that they live are like scrap metal, like the chum bucket is scrap metal. And basically, like, SpongeBob and all of his friends, another one was that they represent like the 7 deadly sins. So we're gonna go ahead and start on the macadamia nut cookies. So, who lives in a pineapple under the sea? Anyways, I'm such a cornball. It's also said that they represent the 7 deadly sins, because Mr. Crab is gluttonous. Sandy is like really prideful. Squidward is more so me. Yeah, no, for real, he's me. I guess it kind of makes sense. The real conspiracy though is who the F is Pearl's dad, because it ain't Mr. Krabs. And I don't know if y'all ever saw that episode where they like went to the jailhouse with them guys in stripes, but I think that her dad was in jail and maybe her mama did get killed. Who knows? But the real conspiracy theory in this whole thing is who is her father. I need to know. I'm very confused on that. Who is Pearl's daddy? Hello? Creators of SpongeBob, can you tell me? Also, another one for Mr. Krabs. I think that he may have been a cannibal, because what were the Krabby Patties made out of? We never found out what the secret formula was, and if we did, I stopped watching it by that time. And then everybody was addicted to those. So was there crack in it? Like, was it a drug? Were they veggie burgers? Were they real burgers? Like, who knows? How do you cook these under the sea is the first question, okay? I think that Plankton was depressed. And a couple of things from my research that I found. Plankton's wife, okay, he was super obsessed with like getting the Krabby Patty formula because nobody liked him. And I don't think that nobody liked him. I think that he just like made it a point to just be like, I want the Krabby Patty formula because you got over on me. How? I don't know. Like, who even knows? I mean, I don't know. SpongeBob seems kind of off anyway, so I'm not surprised that if he had any type of like mental issues, you know, especially Patrick. I think that Patrick was just like high all the time, and he just like did whatever SpongeBob did. Not least, we're actually going to talk about the Fairly Odd Parents. I don't know if a lot of people watch this, but I did. It was actually another one of my favorites. So Cosmo, Wanda, Timmy, you know, whatever, Crocker. From the research that I did, basically what it said is that Timmy was abused as a child, and he had godparents. His godparents took way better care of him than his regular parents did, and obviously we can see that through the show because his dad is off his rocks a lot of the time. So kind of makes sense. But his godparents passed away in a car crash, and he, in his mind, made up Cosmo and Wanda because he was depressed. And like they're pretty much like supposed to be representations of his godparents, but also when his godparents died, like his parents didn't have anybody to like keep watching him or stuff like that, so they hired Vicky. And then when they hired Vicky is when the godparents showed up, you know, and to cope with it, because he honestly, the poor kid was getting beat up by everybody, you know, his parents, his teacher was sexually abusing him, stuff like that. So Vicky was fucking rude, okay? I don't know, Icky Vicky? Yeah, she was. The theory that I saw was basically that Cosmo and Wanda were, in Timmy's mind, a made-up aspect of Prozac and Zoloft because he was depressed, and pretty much like basically all of these were coping mechanisms. So he made them up so that he can cope with like all the craziness that was happening in his life. I mean, I guess it makes sense. But Vicky, brush. I wish the fuck my parents would get a fucking babysitter that was beating my ass. I'll go to jail. Anyways, no. Also, what was the deal with Crocker? Crocker apparently with the Zoloft and Prozac one, Crocker was a drug addict, and the reason why he like obsessed over his Fairly Godparents was because he wanted the drugs. Give me the drugs. Give me the drugs. I feel like a lot of our cartoons that we grew up with have like double meanings. Like, yeah, they were kid cartoons, but they really weren't for kids. Now, because now that I'm older and I'm actually watching them, I'm watching them with the twins, and I'm kind of just like, that's not for kids. SpongeBob is definitely not for children, okay? Because no, it's not for children. Sorry, it's not. I guess in conclusion, a lot of these cartoons have some really dark history behind them. Now, I researched all of this. I don't know if it's true. You guys can look it up. I'll link them in the show notes. But I mean, a lot of it makes sense. Like the Rugrats theory, it makes sense because Angelica was like super controlling. And for Hey Arnold, I mean, that also makes sense because why is his head shaped like a football? Like who knew that? I lost also in the research that I did, a lot of the creators of the shows basically were like, no, that's not true. I can do blah, 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 blah. Whatever. Thank you guys for tuning in. I will be posting pictures of how these cookies turn out on my page. So follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Also, if you like this content, again, this is my very first video, so bear with me. But if you like my content, definitely subscribe. Got more videos to come. Think of some more topics. Message me, inbox me, tell me something that you maybe want to see us talk about. We'll definitely do it. But aside from that, thanks for coming to Cookie with Noey, and bye.